The council could meet off the dais. Okay, folks, as you know, a couple years ago, the Doughboy statue was vandalized. And the Belmar Historical Society stepped up, raised a lot of money to have it done over. And last week, it was rededicated. And we had a nice, beautiful turnout. And I'd like to recognize the members of the Executive Board of the Historical Society that worked so hard to get this Doughboy statue back in its proper place and in proper condition. So could I have the members of the Historical Society please step forward? And, you know, when I was there, I thought it was a great moment. And then when I saw these photographs, I thought to myself, what were the people driving by thinking? Like, if they went there right now. So, but it's brand new condition. That's a real life bagpiper. He wasn't part of the statue. Spencer Hewlett. That's the woman that from the Johnson. Who was that big looking guy in that red shirt? Okay.
Yay.
Yeah. So if I could just by name recognize the Historical Society: Jim Hahn, Lucille Hahn, Naomi Reiser, Karen Hewlett, Spencer Hewlett, President. And are you new? Pat O'Keefe.
That's me.
That's you, the glue of the Historical Society. But I think all these people deserve a great round of applause.
Could we maybe have the members of council come up and we'll just take a photo?
Sure, group photo.
I can do it.
You
Maybe he's thinking of the other group in the room.
All right, I do need y'all to get a little friendly. Push in. All right.
Can you see everybody's
I
head?
can get everybody. One, marks, both marks. Thank you. Two. Nice. You go? Okay.
Super.
Thank you so much.
I should say a few words.
Yes.
Okay, excellent.
The glue Pat O'Keefe.
Now, I think probably in this room, there are two people that have recently had gallbladders that don't have them any longer. One would be our young council person, Mark Levis, and the other is the sidearm throwing pitcher from Manasquan High School, Spencer Hewlett. Spencer, want to say a few words about the, okay.
Well, the Belmar Historical Society is grateful for this recognition. Within our membership, we have a hard-working group of volunteers that are dedicated to keeping the Belmar history alive. It's a small group, and I think I'm safe in saying that pretty much all have been around a long, long time, some longer than others. And so we're always looking to get bigger and younger. So the volunteers, you know we get our strength from the public, so we would like to thank our government and its employees, all the organizations, and I have to give a shout out to the Asbury Park Legion Post, the Manasquan Legion Post,
And Bradley Beach was there.
and Bradley Beach. The Legion Post, we were there when the Doughboy left, and they were there when it came back, and they were, they're part of the group that we're honoring, so that's why I'm kind of singling them out. Also, all the organizations and businesses and individuals that supported our effort to save the spirited American doughboy. We thank them. And I just want to say this project was important because it is Belmar's monument for peace, and that it honors veterans and those who serve our country. They know firsthand the tremendous sacrifice required to preserve the freedoms we cherish. Thank you.
Andrew, you had a grandfather that was
Yes.
on this, what, okay.
Yeah, he
So
was,
Spencer goes way back into Belmar.
he was a sailor and was on the USS Georgia, which was a World War I battleship. It helped escort the cargo ships across sea. And I recently read a diary from a doughboy, and it was quite an experience getting these soldiers across the sea. In fact, I think it was like, Naomi also recently read it, I think it was something like 203 to 300 of these doughboys lost their lives just being transported overseas because the conditions on the ships were so crowded. And so even those that serve that don't get into combat, I mean, what they go through, it was incredible in that time period, and it's even still today probably.
Brian, if I could just mention two things. If you haven't seen it since it's returned, you have to go by. It is absolutely beautiful, shiny, perfect. And also, they're great holiday gifts. If you want to give people the books on Belmar, the 2 different editions, if you want to buy the brick that goes outside by the monument, they're just really, really nice gifts, and to have just as a family, being a resident in town.
Yes,
So.
thank you. Okay, thank you.
Right.
Jim, it looks like you have something in your hand here.
Like Randy Quaid said in a movie once, it's the gift that just keeps on giving. An additional check for $2,188.50 from people who kept on giving.
Really? That's great. How much did the Historical Society raise for this doughboy? Do you know? Well, since you're the treasurer of the...
I put it in round term lots.
Okay, lots of money.
I just have to say that, I'm telling you, for you guys to be volunteers and to raise that kind of money for donations, and what a great job you guys did. The doughboy looks great, came back perfect, and really nice job.
I think it was the
Worked hard.
tremendous patriotic response from the public.
Mm-hmm.
It was amazing,
Yeah, across all ages.
amazing.
You don't have to thank the public. The public should be thanking you people up here. Yeah, did a great job. Thank you.
3 weeks ago, I lost it.
Yes.
We don't understand.
Okay, workshop discussion. About 2 months ago, the towns of Avon and Belmar had meetings in here with the Department of Transportation concerning the bridge at Main Street that connects Belmar to Avon. And the bridge is going to be rebuilt in about 4 years. It will take about 3 years to rebuild. And I know I heard it myself, that the bridge would never be closed down entirely, And that the way they do it is so that there will always be at least one lane of traffic going each way. We received a letter this past week from the Department of Transportation telling us that they need to close down the bridge shortly after September for 2 months to replace, I think, guardrails, right? Isn't it basic?
There's a number of items listed, but
Yeah, so I went over to the bridge, I checked it out. Guardrails seem fine since they were just put up just a few short years ago. I can't understand why the Department of Transportation will be spending money for guardrails and other improvements on this bridge, which is going to be torn down in about 3 or 4 years and rebuilt for a cost of over $100 million. So, I want to hear from the council members what you think. And we've been in touch with Avon. I believe they're as outraged as we are, to maybe come up with a joint letter or individual letters that we can send off to Department of Transportation and vehemently show them our disapproval of why they're doing that and an explanation. I don't know. So
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how specific the letter was with the needs, but, it'd be great if it was explained a little bit more in detail, how severely these different items need to be replaced and maintained. If it was going to happen, September's tough for the kids and the school buses and still summer traffic. But maybe it's something that if it has to be done, they can push it to a October, November, December timeframe, January, February. If there's no good time, but there has to be a better time than early fall. But I definitely think that more explanation and details on the improvements need to be received or looked into.
Tom?
I had 3 things about this. One was there was no way to know how long the bridge was going to be closed. But you answered that question, 2 months, if they're lucky, right? The second question I have is, what does local traffic only mean? I mean, that's what it says on the sign, right? It says local traffic only. Does that mean if you live in Belmar or Avon, you can drive back and forth across the bridge, but if you live in Spring Lake, you're out of luck? And here's the thing that really bothers me. There were 2 different meetings with the state, with DOT, about the bridge rebuild. At both of those meetings, mayor, council, business owners, and residents from both towns made it really clear that the last time the bridge was closed, we felt that with no notice, it was done with really no communication for all the people that were affected. And they assured us, the DOT personnel assured us that, oh no, that won't happen. You're going to know everything. And here it just feels like a kick in the teeth that they're not doing what they said they were doing. They're just not doing it. They're going to just put up a sign and close the bridge, and too bad for the locals. And that really, really bothers me. It just feels, I can't understand why they wouldn't at least come and tell us, with a phone call, let alone a letter. That's it for me. I'm just really upset, really upset.
Mark?
Just sounds to me like one section of the department isn't talking to the other section of the department. Definitely we have to send a letter down and find out where this is coming from. Is it a public safety issue that they have to do it right in September? And find out more details on why it has to be closed. I mean, if it's guardrails falling down, well, they have to do something, but they look fine to me. But I think we really need who's ever signed that letter to discuss that in great detail with them. Because it just sounds like to me, one section of the department is not communicating with another section that's going to be so. But yeah, I definitely think a letter has to go down.
Okay. Mark?
Well, I'm an engineer, so a lot of times I tend to side with engineers on things. That being said, engineers don't always have the best people skills when it comes to communicating things forward.
Thank you.
I'd really like to see what their hit list is and what they actually plan on doing. If this is something like guardrails, I don't see why we need to close down a bridge for 2 months to be able to do that. Now, if it's more severe mechanical issues with the bridge, that's important too, because that bridge being able to go up and down is sort of a lifeblood for our marina and our harbor and all the activities that take place on the water here. That being said, our businesses depend on the bridge being closed. You know, it's a minor inconvenience for people commuting, but for people who are trying to get to businesses in town, it's a big headache. And really, I think last time the bridge was closed, our businesses took a big hit from that,
Sure.
here and in Belmar. So I think we need to have all the facts and know exactly what we're going to do. And I'm definitely upset that they didn't communicate this with us beforehand.
Absolutely.
Because the first time I heard about it was when I see a sign go up
Mhm.
saying the bridge is going to be closed.
Well, I'm not an engineer, and I don't see how you have to close down an entire bridge to put up new guardrails, which are in good shape. But when you tear down the whole bridge, you're able to keep 2 lanes of traffic going back and forth. I agree with Mark about, I think probably one branch of the DOT doesn't know what the other is doing. And I think the public would be outraged to find out how much money is going to be spent needlessly, because in a couple of years, it's all going to be taken down. So, Greg, I'm going to ask you, what do you recommend? We write a letter, or write our own letter, or reach Mayor McGrinny?
I mean, I think multiple municipalities would be more persuasive than one, or you could write your separate letters. I think that having the town involved is helpful.
I did speak with the BAA of Avon a little earlier today, and they're happy to do a joint letter. So with the council's permission, I'll draft something and circulate that to Avon and see if we're in agreement. And we have heard back from the department, the communications team that is attached to the new bridge project. And it was, as many of you are suggesting, it seems that the capital program is not communicating with the maintenance team. So they're 2 separate initiatives, it seems to me.
I think it'd be real beneficial if we requested the DOT to maybe come here and have a meeting for the business owners and the public so they can
Yes.
explain to them.
Yeah, if they're really gonna do it, yeah.
Yeah, not one of the, no, sorry, Mark, not one of the engineers, but someone who is, one of the executives in the Department of Transportation, explaining to us why they're going to be spending the money for bridges. We're talking about the bridge a little bit, Colleen. And at night, going towards the bridge from 10th Avenue, it's pretty dark out there. What's happening with the Main streetscape?
As you all know, it's been very long delayed. The activation of the lights on the northern end of town, north of 10th Avenue. We've seen a little bit of progress in the last week. Mr. Cannon and myself are working with essentially the design of the light poles, place them too close to the electrical infrastructure. The electrical infrastructure will need to be raised. This is a design error or omission on behalf that was made by our engineer. My understanding of the matter, and Mr. Cannon can correct me, is that the claim with their insurance carrier has been approved, and money's allocated to raise the infrastructure.
Good.
And we are just working on some legal paperwork back and forth in order to let that proceed. Our hope and what we have charged the engineer and the attorney with is putting together a recovery schedule that would have the lights on in time for Christmas, if not well before that. But we finally saw some movement this last week where we think we might be able to proceed to authorizing the lifting of the infrastructure.
So what work has to be done?
So several JCP&L's electrical poles and wiring need to be raised so that the appropriate code clearance can be achieved between the top of our street lighting and their infrastructure.
How tall are the poles?
I believe they're moving up the same poles.
Yeah, they're able to
I
move it
double
up.
check that, but I didn't think new poles
Right.
are necessary.
Oh, so they
In
just
some
have to
areas-
move everything that's on
Yeah.
the pole? Oh, good.
In some areas, they need to come up a foot, in other areas, they need to come up 2 feet. And JCP&L has provided the quote to Major Consulting to perform that work. It's been approved by their insurance carrier. And like I said, I think we're very close to being able to sign off on the authorization for that. So Greg's taking a look at that just to make sure our our liabilities covered. This wasn't an error of Belmar, it was an error of a professional, but we seem to be getting close to resolution.
Can we check to make sure if this work needs to be done, which it does, doesn't coincide with, if we can't convince the DOT not to shut down, that work doesn't happen at the same time the closing of the bridge and the lifting up? I mean, it's going to affect Main Street, right? The lifting up the,
JCP&L has assured us that once they receive payment, that they believe they can put together a lifting schedule that will take approximately 2 weeks at the outside. So we would absolutely work with them, with the police department and Department of Public Works to make sure that we're not blocking anyone's business. JCP&L is pretty good to work with, so I have hope that we can highly coordinate the schedule. But it's a good point about the bridge closure, so yeah, another surprise.
anything else? Mark, you mentioned something?
Yeah, so I had been discussing with just some constituents and members of the public, and one of the ideas I heard was about having a parks commission, similar to our harbor commission or our environmental commission, but their main purpose would be to make recommendations to the council on how we can improve our parklands and how we can maintain them better. And we have a very good Department of Public Works, but they're not always able to be everywhere at the same time. So this would sort of give the citizens some engagement and let them decide what they want to see in the park, how we can make it better, and what periodic maintenance we need to do to those parks. And obviously, we know we can't do everything, but I feel like if we have some involvement from our people, I think we'd be getting the best input possible.
Do you see them, well, they wouldn't have the authority to give work orders to the DPW.
No,
You would
no,
just
not
recommendations?
I think it'd be similar to the way our commission is structured now, where they're an advisory committee, where you're making recommendations on what they can do, but ultimately the decision will be up to the council on how monies get spent and determining the budget for these types of things. But I think the more eyes we can put on it, and the more citizens we can get engaged in it, I think we can really keep our parks looking nice and really improve upon what we already have.
How do you go about making a new commission or a committee or?
It's typically done by ordinance, and so you would either workshop it, we could look at models from other towns, if it's something that you want to pursue, and you would introduce an ordinance for a second reading that would promulgate the rules under which such an advisory commission could operate.
Yeah, it'd be good to know who else is doing it. And then you gotta decide like how many people and.
Yeah, how many people, what the terms are, what their, roles and responsibilities are going to be.
Yeah.
I mean, the parks that I visit with my children, which are a good handful, look amazing. So, hopefully they don't come to us on a weekly basis saying this needs to be fixed, that needs to be, because I think we've been doing a great job. But it would be nice to have another set of eyes just to help.
And we get a lot of emails and recommendations from the park anyway. This would just be a great way to coalesce those ideas into one commission that's reporting to the council on these. So that way we're actually taking public input and doing something really, really productive with it. And everyone's getting a say in it, not just,
Plus having 8 new parks, so.
Yeah, there's a lot to look after. If we don't take care of it and make plans for it now, then we could have trouble down the line. And again, this has nothing to do with the DPW. They do a great job taking care of what we have. But I just think it'd be great to have some more public input and some more public engagement in this.
Mark, anything?
No, the only thing I want to say is Mike Campbell and his crew do an unbelievable job with the parks. I mean, I've never even seen a speck of trash in them. I mean, they really take good care of them. It's a good idea to have something like that, and maybe another set of eyes that could bring some suggestions to the council, but I'm just not sure of what their role would be, except for bringing like suggestions, maybe fencing or lighting or something like that. But as far as the daily cleanup, I mean, Mike Campbell and his crew do an unbelievable job on every single playground that I've ever saw.
While we're talking about the parks, I believe tomorrow down at Cleary Park, we're installing 12 new barbecue pits, right?
Yeah, so again, feedback we've gotten from the public and just trying to improve things.
Yeah.
Mike placed an order for, I think, a dozen new grills, and those locations are marked out, and install will start tomorrow. So it's great. They've also done a great deal of work down in Cleary Park, whether it's
Yeah,
trimming
the
of
Clear Park,
trees.
to me, is looking real good. I
It
mean,
is.
we painted the lines, and I know Sal Cercelli has done a lot of the pruning of the trees down there. It's looking good.
You know, my wife and I walk down there quite often, especially this time of year to see the sunset. And one of the things we've been talking about is just how great that the park looks over there. And I was just like, I know they're gonna put in new grills, it's like no more tilty hamburgers, you know, it's like gonna be really good. I think, you know, one of the things you think about is we have a lot of parks, and they're not all the same. We have playgrounds. We have Cleary Park, which is a completely different kind of thing. I know we have even the Doughboy Park, that's a park, right? I think that having people whose interest leads them to look at things and maybe think outside the box about things that can be done is really a good idea. And you know there are people who are interested in doing it.
I've noticed that at Silver Lake, after Sandy, the state came in and stocked it with these little fish. What are little fish called? Fingerlings or something? I don't know. And he said in about 3 or 4 years, they'll mature into larger fish that you'll be able to catch. Sure enough, this summer, the kids are down the beach, down the lake, catching smallmouth bass. And it worked. You know, it's the fishing. I think if you're 16, you need a license, and I believe someone does come around and some type of officer from the state and can issue a summons. But if you're under 16, you can fish, you know, without a license. So.
I see kids there often. The Lawrence triplets are always showing on Facebook the fish that they catch, so it's nice for them.
Okay. Anybody else for a workshop? If not, let's move into petitions. If there's anybody out in the audience with a petition, you want to step forward, and seeing none, we'll go right to approval of the minutes.
I move that the minutes of the regular meeting held on July 17, 2018 be approved as recorded, and that a copy thereof be posted on the borough's website.
Second.
Councilman Brennan?
Aye.
Councilman Nicholas? Mayor McGovern?
Yes.
Councilman Osmer?
Abstain.
Councilman Levin?
Yes.
Okay, reports of council. Mark Levis, I hope you're feeling better. Mark had surgery.
Yep, I'm back in commission. I just want to say thank you to the BBP for the cruise night in July. It was really, really awesome. There were a lot of cool cars. There were a lot of people, a lot of families, a lot of people had a great time. I believe the next one is scheduled for the 22nd, if I'm correct. So look forward to that. Coming up around the week of August 20th, our lifeguards, in conjunction with the Rutgers University, are tentatively planning to test a life-saving drone on the beachfront.
When's that? August 20th?
It is going to be around that week. We're looking for a window right now with the lifeguards on when they can do it and when Rutgers is able to do it. But Rutgers has purchased a drone, and they would like to test it on our beachfront.
Great.
Friends of Belmar Harbor is going to be hosting their Friendship Cup Regatta on Friday, August 17th. This is for sailors 7 to 15 years old. If you're looking for information to register, it's at www.fobhnj.org. And this Saturday, Friendly Sons of the Shillelagh are having their 11th annual fluke tournament. So sign up for that if you're interested in fishing.
Not at Silver Lake, though, right?
No, it's going to be in the ocean. And then the only other report I have is that I know we get reports from the beachfront once a month in terms of revenue. I think it'd be really beneficial if we could get one for the marina. That's another big revenue stream, so I'd like to start seeing that come in so we can get eyeballs on it and see how we're doing with the transient slips as well.
Yeah, Councilman and I discussed it yesterday, and we're working on it for now.
But we get the beach reports once a week.
once a week, yeah. This doesn't need to be as frequent.
Okay. 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 Is
That's
that
all I
it?
have, yeah.
Will you? Okay, Mark?
Thank you, Mayor. The only thing I have is Councilwoman Nicolay and Councilman Levis and I attended the Circle of Friends golf outing. Two of us missed the meeting. I just have to say that, you know, Bob and Carol Capoli, what a great job they do. They raise all that money, they take care of our special needs kids, and I just had to give them a little recognition because they do really work hard. And they have the Circle of Friends dances, and they keep these kids together, and it's, you know, it's a big task, and they do such a great job. And that's all I have, Mayor.
Good. What'd you shoot?
I got soaking wet and cold after 9 holes.
Okay.
Believe me, I wasn't concentrating on golf with that rain.
Tom?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The only thing I have, I just want to let people know there's an item on the consent agenda where we're designating the block on between 3rd and 4th Ave for the dune planting second pilot. We're going to be testing out, you know, native beach plants. The idea being that we put them in there, they grow and they solidify the dunes, much better than pushing sand around. Even the sand that's piling up there now is only there because the wind blows and there's nothing, if there was a storm surge, there'd be nothing to really use to hold that sand there, there'd be no real protection from it. In speaking with the consultant who's coming up with the proposal, one of the things that they're going to try to do is put in more pollinators, including milkweed. We had a great discussion about how quite a few people in town are working to help raise monarchs, including my wife, the queen of the butterflies. It's really quite amazing, really quite amazing. I couldn't even begin to count the number of butterflies. It's in the hundreds from our house. And it would be really a big help if we had them go on along the beach, and the consultant assures me that milkweed will grow in the sand. It's a weed, it'll grow pretty much anywhere. So we're looking forward to that. That would be, the target would be to get that in the end of October. That's it for me. Thanks.
Okay.
Just a couple things. The registration for the fall soccer for the Belmar Avalon Lake Como soccer has been closed, but they're still taking kids. So if you need any information, it's emailing Debbie Howell. But you know, please feel free to get in touch with me if you need any information. They're really in need of players. Unfortunately, the numbers are pretty low, and we'd like to have a good season. So if any kids are interested, you know, girls and boys, let us know. Yeah, the car show was great. My son was in his glory. All these different owners let him sit in the car, the driver's seat, and he was loving it. Picturing him driving in, what, 10 years? Scary. And yes, the Circle of Friends was excellent. We did get through 9 holes. I was 15 under. I don't know what Mark was. My best round ever. But they are just tremendous. Bob and Carol Cole be putting that together. Yeah, and our own Kelly Williams won one of the raffles, so that was nice to see. But yeah, I just give them kudos, and again, like if you can ever swing by Taylor Pavilion to one of their events, you'll see just how magical their group is. So kudos to them. And shop local. What is it?
There's a dance tomorrow night.
Oh, tomorrow night? Oh, tomorrow night, Taylor Pavilion, 6. Okay, yeah, 6 o'clock. But honestly, just walk on the boardwalk, stop in, and you'll be smiling ear to ear. And as always, please shop local. I know it's busy in summertime, but any traffic and purchases you can make in town is highly welcomed. Thank you.
I just got 2 things. I want to thank the DPW. This past weekend, we had the triathlon in Belmar. But we started setting up on Friday, and we had a little glitch with scheduling with a wedding on Saturday. And when it was brought to the attention of the DPW, Mike came down, immediately brought his guys down, adjusted things so that the bride had what she was expecting, having a wedding at the gazebo. So everything worked out. After she was finished, they came back and set it back up, and the triathlon went off like clockwork on Sunday morning. So thanks, Mike. You guys did a great job helping that bride get married down at the gazebo like she wanted to. The Belmar Historical Society that we recognized earlier today they're having another program. It's called the Well-Equipped Doughboy. It's on Wednesday, September 12th at Teller Pavilion, 7 p.m. The presenter will display several tables of World War I equipment that the soldiers used during the Great War, the war to end all wars. So it's going to be, if you're a little bit into history, a little bit into military, should be a good night at Teller Pavilion on Wednesday, September 12th. So please come down and see all the good work again that the Belmar Historical Society is doing. That's my report. Okay, now we move into public session. Public session on the resolutions only on the agenda. We will continue to have a public session at the end of this meeting. So is there anybody out in the audience that wishes to come forward and talk about anything on the resolution? Seeing none, I make a motion to close the public portion for the resolutions. Do I have a second? Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Next time, I think you have to leave us, right?
I am going to recuse myself. This is an ABC action, and because I'm a professional musician in town, I do business with some of the licensed establishments. In an effort to, an abundance of caution, and an effort to avoid any appearance of impropriety, I'm going to recuse myself.
Okay. So I'd like to make a motion to pass a resolution authorizing the issuance of a plenary retail distribution license to Arpedo Incorporated, trading as Hanley's Liquors for the period ending June 30th, 2019. Do I have a second? Second.
Councilman Nicolay?
Yes.
Mayor McGovern?
Yes.
Council Wilson?
Yes.
Councilman Levis?
Yes.
Colleen, can you explain this next resolution? It's a change order on the sidewalk program?
Sure. This is the final resolving change order, and as I like to say, there's really only two types of good change orders: a negative change order or a change order that came about because the program was so popular. So this was our sidewalk assessment program, which, as you know, we are in phase 2 of. And as the work progressed, it was incredibly popular with our residents, where they were happy to replace some of their sidewalks. And so the quantities came in, and it resulted in a change order that you're considering here tonight. It's under the statutory limit, and all of it is accessible on properties that people will be paying off over the next several years. And it's not taxpayer dollars, well, it is, but for the specific tax properties where the improvements happen. So it's, again, change order, but one that, because the program was so popular.
How many residents took advantage of it? Do we know a ballpark figure?
It was under 400, but initially we started with a list of about 125. So that's why it's gone through now these 2 phases, and we were able to get some nice mass quantities, prices made available for folks. So that's, I think, why it became so popular.
Absolutely. Are they still doing it now? I mean, when do they expect to?
We are
finish
done.
up?
This is the resolving final
This
change
is
order.
it, okay. Okay, I'd like to make a motion to pass a resolution pursuant to the NJAC 530-14.4 head sequence change order number 1 for the 2017 sidewalk program. Do I have a second?
Second. Councilman Brennan?
I gotta tell you, I've described this program to some friends of mine who live in other towns. They absolutely love the idea. We're gonna go back and get our town to do this, so I'll vote yes.
Councilman Nicolay?
Yes.
Mayor McGovern?
Not to scare you, Kyle, but I'd like the Shade Tree Commission would like to see if we can do something similar to trees on that. I call it the hell strip, because trees don't really like being between the sidewalk and the curb.
Mhm.
They'd much rather be on your front lawn so they can spread their roots. But there are some trees that, if we could do it, combine it with people that need to take down the tree.
We're looking into a tree program.
Terrific. Okay, my answer is yes. April.
Councilman Wilson?
Yes.
Councilman Levis?
Yes.
And I'll ask you to explain the resolution for the Lake Como stormwater outfall.
Happy to. As I mentioned when explaining the sidewalk program change order, I mentioned that the kind of change order I generally like is a negative change order. That's what this is. As we progressed with the Lake Como stormwater outfall improvements, we were able to find some efficiencies within the quantities of the contract. And so this is what we hope to be the final resolving change order with job, even though we're not closed out. We will remain open until the fall when we can finish the landscaping, as you all well know. So this is a net decrease of $368,926.
Okay, so I make a motion to pass the resolution pursuant to NJAC 534. Oh, did I already read this or?
No, it's just the same provision of public
Okay.
contracting law.
Okay, change order number 4 for the Lake Como stormwater outfall improvements. Do I have a second?
Second.
Councilman Brennan?
Aye.
Councilman Nicolay?
Yes.
Mayor McGover?
Yes.
Council Osmer?
Yes.
Councilman Levis?
Yes.
Moving to the consent agenda. All matters listed in the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the Borough Council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items. If discussion is desired, that item can be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately.
Brian, I'd like to, I'd make a motion to remove resolution amending resolution number 2017-1118, authorizing executive session, to remove it from the consent agenda. I was not present for this initial resolution, so I'd like to abstain from voting on that particular resolution.
Smart.
Right, so we,
So we have a motion to amend to remove that from the consent agenda. Councilman Levis vote separately on it.
you want to make that motion?
Yeah, I'll make the motion.
Okay, go ahead.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Right, so if we could have a motion to adopt resolution amending resolution number 2017-118.
Okay, I make a motion to pass resolution amending resolution number 2017-118, authorizing executive session.
Second.
Councilman Brennan?
Aye.
Councilman Nicolay?
Yes.
Mayor McGover?
Yes.
Councilman Osmer?
Yes.
Councilman Levis?
Abstain.
All right,
Good call.
good call. That was a test. You passed. You made it. I make a resolution to pass the, I make a motion to pass resolutions on the consent agenda. Do I have a second?
Second.
Councilman Brennan?
Aye.
Councilman Nicolay?
Yes.
Mayor McGover?
Yes.
Councilman Osmer?
Yes.
Councilman Levis?
Yes.
Okay, to ordinances, the first reading and introduction, ordinance 2018-12. This ordinance of the Borough of Belmar amending Chapter 29, Water Sewer Utility Department. That's all I have to do is read it, right? It's the first reading?
Motion to introduce it?
Okay, I make a motion to introduce ordinance 2018-12, ordinance of the Borough of Belmar amending Chapter 29, Water, Sewer, and Utility Department.
Second?
Councilman Brennan?
This is like we're raising the fees, right?
It's various fees, yes, very long overdue.
I know. I just hate raising any fee. I'll vote yes.
Councilman Nicolay?
Yes.
Mayor McGover?
Yes.
Councilman Osmer?
Yes.
Councilman Levis?
Yes.
Now we move into the public session. If you wish to step forward, please come up to the microphone, state your name, your address, and see if we can answer your question. Okay?
David Shank, 302 C Street. Just want to note that this will be my last meeting. We're moving in about 2.5 weeks. And, the meeting 2 weeks from now will probably be too busy. So just want to say goodbye to everyone and wish everyone in town the best. And it's been a great 25 years here in Belmar, and raised my family here, and I'll never forget Belmar. And it's time to move on, but Belmar will always be a very special place to me. So
Where you going,
thank
Dave?
you. Hampton, New Hampshire.
Live free or die.
Yeah, I can't wait. It's really nice up there, and we're building something we've always wanted to do. We're building a new house from scratch, and very close to a very nice beach there. And
Congratulations.
you can smoke on the beach, and so I'll be very happy there. No $1,000 fines or anything like that, so don't have to hide under my blanket when I smoke and stuff, you know.
That's you?
So it's going to be good, and I just can't wait. But Belmar will always be a special place, and I don't regret for a minute moving here. So it's been a very good 25 years.
You know, New Hampshire has the smallest ocean front of all the states that.
Yeah, well, I'm not that big. I don't need that much space. So it's like that's enough. But they do have some very beautiful beaches up there, and they're free. So
Best of luck.
because they're all state parks, so you don't have to pay to go on the beach. And
Are you going to have internet access?
oh, of course, yeah. I don't know. You know, everybody's asking me if I'm going to keep doing what I do, and I just won't know until I'm there if I'm, whether I'm going to feel like doing it or not. So we'll just have to wait and see. But it'd be kind of hard because I don't know, if I'm not here, it's kind of difficult to really know what's going on. But we'll see. But certainly it's going to be different. It won't be the same in any case. So, but I'll still keep an eye on what's going on here. That's for sure. So, okay, thanks a lot. Good luck to everybody in town.
Good luck, David.
All right.
Good job, Dave.
Anybody else?
Angela Pfeiffer, 319 Fifth Avenue. Last week it's been really hot. I was at the beach several days, and I noticed busloads of campers coming. One time there was I counted, there was 23 campers. Another time there was 30 campers. And there's 3 or 4 adults. So here's my question. I mean, at one time, one of the lifeguards actually came down from the stand. I mean, the surf has been really rough. And this lifeguard really had his hands full with these kids. And I'm wondering, do they give us advance notice when they're showing up with this many kids?
Colleen, can you answer that?
I can. So the answer is sometimes. Some camps are very good about communicating with us. Others just arrive. And, children under the age of 15 are free to get on the Belmar beach, and so the counselors need to buy beach badges, but it's a public beach, and that's what they're going to do that day.
Which brings me to my next point, because at 15, we're probably the most generous town around. I think Point Pleasant, you start paying at 3.
Yeah.
No, seriously, and I think it's, it's 11. So I get why the camps come here, but these are for-profit camps coming here with 30 people and paying 3 beach badges and taking the lifeguards' resources. And I'm just wondering if there's a way that we can either coordinate or maybe so many kids per adult. And then, I don't know if we, but it was, several people noticed how many kids were on this beach these few days, and there was a lot of them, and the lifeguards had their hands full, so I just don't know if there's a way to better coordinate that, or charge the camps, or something. If they're taking the resources, just a thought.
Yeah, they're taking advantage of it. I was a lifeguard for many years, and when we saw a bus pull up, we tell them that they came to the wrong bus. They had to go to 7th Avenue or 15th. Yeah, but I don't know how we can stop it. But it's a good point. How old were these kids in this bus?
If I had to guess, I would say anywhere, there was 3 separate groups. I would say maybe from 7 to 11, 6 to...
Typical day camp age is
it was
up to 6th grade.
Right, but again, these are for-profit camps, and they're coming to the beach, and they're not really paying anything, and the lifeguards did a great job. It was rough surf. It was really rough surf, and you had all of these kids screaming and jumping. The waves were knocking them over, and lifeguards had their hands full. So
Probably what the lifeguards did, they obviously became more focused. They probably went up to the counselors and say, hey, you can't sit back on your blanket and just enjoy the rest of the day. And the lifeguards probably got on their radios and told the beach supervisor, hey, we have a busload of campers down here. Can you send us some extras? And
Yeah.
that's probably what they did.
Yeah, that was an interesting point, because we were watching the counselors. 2 counselors were amazing. I mean, they had their eyes glued on the kids. And the other one had his back to the kids. And I was like, so it really, it was just, I mean, I don't know what we could do, but it's just something to think about when these buses show up with 30 kids and 3 paying adults.
If we can do anything, we'll look into it.
Yeah, just to make it easier for the lifeguards too. I mean, what happened if it was a stand where there was only, happened to be a stand with 3 lifeguards that day, but suppose there was only 1 or 2, which we sometimes have, so.
At Fifth Avenue?
It was at Fifth. It was at
I just say probably, that has a deep drop, so the kids probably can't go out very far there. So it would be, if there were rescues, they're what we refer to as pickups, probably just, and when we used to have ropes, that's when you'd have so many rescues, because they get knocked underneath the ropes and caught by the chin.
Oh, is that why we don't have ropes anymore? I was wondering why we didn't have
We
ropes.
had so many more people, but the ropes became a hazard to a lot of people that didn't know how to swim. They would hold onto the rope and try and step down into the drop. Here comes a wave, they get knocked off their feet. Now they get hung up by the rope. You've got nasty burns on their sides and everything, so.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else? Rose?
Rose DeGagnon, 201 Ninth Avenue.
Sorry to hear about Hobie.
Thank you. Very sad. I have a question. Who determines, and I'm going into buildings now, building height in the town? The in-town residential, who determines how high a building can go?
Well, that's in the master plan, that's been determined, and different areas have different heights. You know, Greg, can you answer this better?
Yeah, sure. So there's a master plan prepared by your planner. It has to be done every 10 years. Typically makes recommendations to plan for the town, and then those are codified in your zoning ordinances. And so the heights for every zone, or the maximum height in every zone, is controlled by the applicable zoning ordinance, unless the area is a redevelopment zone, in which case those items can be changed, or the zoning board grants a variance to exceed the height limitations. And then sometimes there's differences in buildings, like for example, a church steeple is allowed to be, or a synagogue spire is allowed to be taller than an ordinary building in the zone, but that's considered a special use.
Okay, is there a limit? Is there a 3-story limit in town and a 2.5-story limit in residential areas? Is there?
Typically, you mean like in a commercial versus residential setting? There's almost always a distinction between the two.
Okay. So is it 3-story? Because I'm seeing buildings going up very.
You have to forgive me that we have a zoning board here. Mr. Kennedy is the attorney for that. He would know right off the top of his head, but I haven't had occasion to really, in my position, kind of look at what everything is required. It really depends on the town. I mean, so for example, some places like Fort Lee, the residential area is actually allowed to build to 12 stories, versus the commercial area, their Old Town, which they want to keep more small and quaint. So it doesn't necessarily correlate to zones. It really depends on the town, previous development, and what the there's planning standards and zoning standards the planning uses every 10 years to figure that out.
Okay, so what feedback does a resident have if they're?
There are hearings when they
Yeah.
do that master plan every 10 years. There are, there's at least one public hearing. Clerk will probably speak better. Is there 2 hearings? But there are hearings on the master plan.
We did our master plan 2 years ago. That was our 10-year update. And then really the best outlet for residents to give input and speak are at zoning board applications or come in here and talk to the council.
Okay, well.
You know, years ago, obviously, the heights are different. We have a 9-story building over here at W Towers, and we
Yes.
have a 6-story building over here. So obviously, the heights have been, and no one ever
Pretty
complained
big
about those
buildings,
buildings.
though, right?
going up.
Delrio Towers is a pretty that's been around for a while.
Yeah, but you imagine, well, there used to be homes near there.
Okay.
People that lived on the Highway 35.
Okay.
Remember the Chinese restaurant that was there?
What I'm trying to say is I don't want us to make the same mistakes we made with maybe with those things. I'm looking at Borough Hall, and the last time I got up and spoke about this, at the time I had no idea there was residents. I didn't finish reading the article, shame on me, but I think this is awful. I think it's overdeveloping. It's too much. We're a small town. I think we're overpopulating.
Well, you know we have fewer people in Belmar, living in Belmar now than we had 20 years ago, right?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. But I don't think we need condos and things or apartments to populate more, or this is a massive building. So is this where I'm supposed to be to say I'm not happy with this?
Yeah.
Is this the right place?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not happy with this.
Okay.
Okay, it's upsetting. I think things are overdeveloping. I pull in on 10th Avenue. That's a huge building there. That was a little building, 2 stories. Is there a limit? Can we keep it to 3 stories in town and 2.5 in residential areas?
Well, again, we fall back on the master plan. It's,
Yeah, I mean,
go to
yeah,
the zoning board.
just to be clear, those are look, I don't know what it's 2.5 stories, it goes by feet typically.
Okay.
But whatever the feet is, you can read it right on the borough website. That's
So-
the rules unless the zoning board grants a variance or there's a redevelopment area, both of which would involve multiple public hearings for, the objections to that, the deviating from that standard.
So
to
the
be heard.
zoning board has there are rules for all of us out there, depending on where you live.
Right.
The zoning board has no responsibility to grant relief to people.
No, there's no right to relief there.
Okay.
So everyone, let's say you wanted to build a structure. You pick any zone. You come into the construction office, the zoning official, you tell him generally what you want to build. Right? I don't know if you require full plans or concept plans here. He looks at it and he determines, and typically your architect has done that in advance, and determines what variances you would need, if any. So if there's no variances and you comply with all the written rules and there's a master plan and the zoning ordinances, he just stamps it, goes on for planning board approval, whatever other approval you might need if you're within all those rules. So many times people build out here in any town, build all the time without going to the zoning board. Once you require a variance or to vary from those rules, then there's a 200-foot notice that goes out to every property owner within 200 feet saying this hearing's happening because they're trying to change the rules in your neighborhood. And then the right to be heard at those zoning board hearings is really the public's right to say, I want you to stick to the rules, And then the zoning board, depending on the circumstances and the various competing interests that they go through, which Mr. Kennedy would be better able to speak to than I could, they vote up or down. And those are people that are your neighbors. And there's a point you have to be a resident of the borough.
Well, is this zoning?
That, I believe, was proposed as a redevelopment area, but that hasn't happened. I don't
No,
think-
that's
I
in the
think council
redevelopment
said-
area, and council agreed and instructed us to table that and pursue an RFP in the fall.
Okay. And I have one
So that's
more
not
thing.
approved, just to be clear, that's not approved or
Okay,
happening or
this is
anything.
good. Okay.
That has been tabled by the governing body. It was a concept plan that was brought in here that the governing body had serious concerns about that I think you guys expressed on the public record. So that's not happening as of
Okay.
today or anything.
Okay.
When you get those notices in the mail that says someone's trying to go outside the rules or there's a public hearing on a redevelopment area before this body, that's when you come in. Because that's when you know the rules are being changed. You have to provide notice to everyone that the rules are being varied in some way.
Okay.
So, that I didn't even have a public hearing, it was just a concept plan
Okay,
here.
okay. And I have one more thing that says, the lady that mentioned about beach badges and the age. Is there any way to lower the age or not be the cheapest beach? I feel like we're the Walmart of beaches here. We're the lowest badge. And I know people say, oh, we're bringing in families. Well, if you sit on my front porch, you're going to see that there are some families coming, some very lovely families, but there's also a lot of other things, and I think we should be comparable to our neighbors up and down the coast here. So I don't know who determines, I don't know if that's a committee, council, but something to be considered. If Avon is 11, maybe we should be 11 too. Or, you know, or if they're a certain price, we should be equivalent to them or somewhere near Bradley, Asbury Park, you know, Spring Lake, all of those. You know, just.
By the end of the season, Rose, the beachfront director will probably make recommendations to us. We'll sit down, we'll have a meeting, we'll look at those recommendations, and we can change it. We can lower it, we can raise it, we can increase the prices for a seasonal badge, or for the senior badges, for the daily badges.
Okay, so that's on the council, there's not a beach committee or anything?
No, that was at the council.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing none, I make a motion to,
I'll just make a quick comment. I didn't plan on saying anything. John McGritty, I'm the mayor in Avon.
from Avon.
Yes.
Right, two there. John?
I came in the tail end of the conversation about the bridge. We're as equally as concerned with the idea of closing it the day after Labor Day. I know our business administrator has spoken to yours, and whatever we can coordinate, we're happy to do so, because I think it's just bad timing, and we're caught off guard in the whole thing, so.
You were at the meetings, what did you come away from?
Well, there was never talk about another change or any new construction going on, other than building a new bridge in 2023. So this is the first we're hearing it. As you said earlier, I don't know if they knew what one side was doing with the other side. But we certainly want to oppose it as much as we can, so thank you. And
Maybe we should get a photo up, you and me shaking hands, and we get the, hands, let's do that, let's.
I didn't really dress for that, but.
Well, good thing, he's all dressed up, I mean, I just haven't.
I don't have to fit his jacket,
So, John, Belmar agrees with you that bridge should not be closed down.
Take it from the stomach up, please.
There you go. Filter. There we go.
All right. Thank you, guys. Have a good night.
Thank you.
That was fun. Seeing no one else, I make a motion to close the meeting. Do I have a second?
All in favor?
Aye.